I have your attention, please? Good evening, everyone. If you'd like to find your seat, we're going to get started. Now that you've all found your seats, we'll begin. Good evening, everyone. My name's Diane Hall. I'm about to say the naturalist, but my hat tonight is the president of the Morning Optimist Club. Thank you all for attending our special evening this evening, the Citizen of the Year Roast honoring Gary Shout. The funds raised from tonight's events go to administer and support Optimist activities, including scholarships and local youth activities. And our mission, as our banner states, is bringing out the best in kids. Some of the agencies and programs that we've supported include the Marshalltown Public Library, the Marshalltown High School with the Envirothon, Park and Rec, Marshall County Conservation Board, Wonderful Wednesdays, Child Abuse Prevention, Youth and Shelter Services, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and Shoes That Fit. Another service that we provide is the Avenue of Red, White, and Blue, which is our flag project. By subscription, we will provide a flag in your yard on 5 flag holidays, and there's a flyer about that program on your table. At this point, we'll have John Hall come to the front to lead the invocation.
Good evening. It's good to see a lot of smiling faces out there. I'm expecting a really good time at this roast. Every one of them. It's just been a blast to be here, so welcome. Let's go to our Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for bringing us all here safely. We thank you for this wonderful Morning Optimist Club that you have made us a part of so that we can help the kids, and not only in our community but throughout the world. We ask you now to bless each person here and ask that this time would be a blessing to them as it is to you. Bless this meal for the nourishment of our bodies so that we can be about your work when we leave this place. We ask that you bless each and every person on their way home. Keep us all safe so that we can take care of the kids in our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Did everybody enjoy that wonderful dinner?
Yes.
Good. Well, we'll move on to the next exciting part of the evening, and I would like to introduce our MC for this evening, Mr. Joe Hannum.
Thanks, Diane. Well, good evening. Thank you for all coming out tonight to celebrate Gary Shout's selection as the 2015 Citizen of the Year. Before we begin our roast, I thought we should take a moment to thank the Marshalltown Morning Optimists for hosting this fun event this year. The Optimists do many wonderful projects to make our town a better place. The Avenue of the Flags on holidays, the donations toward many projects, and bringing out the best in the kids. Why don't we have the Morning Optimist members in attendance tonight please stand so we can acknowledge them. Thank you. Our roasters have guaranteed me they will deliver a lot of fun and comedy at the expense of Gary Shout tonight. Please keep in mind, these roasters are not paid comedians. Heck, a couple of them don't even have a sense of humor. Although our speakers will attempt... Only one at the microphone, please. Although our speakers will attempt to be sensitive to everyone, except Gary, this is a roast, so we cannot assure you everything will be exactly politically correct. The stories you are about to hear are for the most part true. However, the stories are embellished, exaggerated, and partially fabricated. Pastor Shout, as you would know it, tonight is okay to bear false witnesses. Before I turn it over to the official roasters, I'd like to share a few of my own thoughts.
It's like they sound. It's like two Garys are laughing over there. proud of him.
Jerry, was it like that when they were kids?
He can't hear you.
Oh. There's not many who give their time as passionately as Gary has for supporting our community with a shared goal of making it a better place for our kids. As we look back over the past year, we can see Gary's involvement in the community. As co-chair of the Roundhouse renovation, Gary has tirelessly been raising funds. I need to divert some attention. I got some pictures over here.
That's it?
Wait. I'm clicking.
That is comedy.
It's not clicking.
Several of the fundraisers Gary attended was surfing at the Bobcat Ball, Vanna, MC of the Beatles concert, announcing $1 million donation. You really don't have to look too hard to see how active Gary really is in the community. Vanna.
She got it.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Gary was supposed to be playing cards with the guys that night. He never showed. Now we know why. So it's no wonder Gary won the Citizen of the Year award, but I'm still curious how he was selected over others that are so involved in the community. Gary's a smart guy and a successful financial planner. He obviously believes in the buy and hold philosophy. When Gary moved back to Marshalltown about 15 years ago, he bought a house in town. A few years later, he bought a house in the country. He's never sold it, rented it, or used it for any other thing. Gary does the same thing with cars. Does anybody know what kind of car Gary drives? And hasn't driven it, let alone seen it, the past several years, even though he has 2 houses and 4 garages that could store it. He drives the rental. Obviously, when Gary gets a hold of something he really likes, he never lets go. Gary heard The Bachelor was coming back to Iowa, and he wanted to audition. He figured out he should get his equipment ready to impress the bachelorettes. Onto the roasters. The first roaster, I'm not real sure how she fits in. Although I know Gary knows Carrie, I didn't know how well. From what I know of Carrie, she's a very pleasant and kind. Maybe Gary thought he would start off with a nice powder puff who wouldn't hurt his feelings too much. We'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, Carrie Killstrom.
Thank you, Joe, for that nice welcome. So you're probably all wondering exactly how myself and our honored Gary tonight are connected. Well, I'll give you a little hint. I met him before anyone else in this room except one person. You see, Gary and I first met September 1st, 1964, in Sac City, Iowa, Loring Hospital, maternity ward. Let me tell you the story of our encounter. I'll take you back to that place and time. So here I was. I'm new to this place. I'm kicked back, all dressed in white cotton, styling, I might add, snoozing in my bassinet. Perfect.
Mr. Hank with the Christmas tree is right on.
When this new dude, he rolls up next to me and he's all loud and brash, and he was not too pleased about something. Once he calmed down, he spoke to me. He said, "Hey, baby, my name is Gary. What you got over there?" And I said, "Well, my name is Carrie, and I have a pacifier to suck on and a pink bunny to keep me company." Gary pops up and he snickers, "Well, take a look at this and what I can do with it." And he began to pull this thing out of his bassinet, and he starts to swing it and swing it and swing it around. My head was spinning. I could not believe what I was seeing. I said, "Hey, Gary, I don't have one of those." "And what is it?" He said, "Well, they tell me it's an umbilical cord." Gary grinned wide, and he said, "Well, they told me that the doctors wanted to remove it, and I wouldn't let them because I was having far too much fun with it." A short time later, our parents each took us home, and I didn't see Gary again until nearly 50 years later. When I was reintroduced to Gary, there was something very familiar about him. After all, I'd seen him naked, and you never forget your first look. Congratulations, Gary, my brother from another mother and father. Cheers.
Thank you, Carrie. The next exceptionally beautiful and elegant roaster is my lovely wife, Peggy. As I would like to continue to have visitation rights to our bedroom and ride home tonight, I will just quickly introduce her, Peggy Hannum.
So thank you. Actually, my pre-prepared speech was going to say, "Thank you, Joe. It's going to be a lonely night on the couch tonight," because I thought he was going to say something a little different than what he just said. So it's still going to be a lonely night on the couch tonight. Gary and I go way back. Actually, it began at Linehan Middle School, and back when he actually had hair on his head. And Mr. Bill Martin at that point had bestowed the Motor Mouth of the Month award on Gary. And I want to say that we are both MHS graduates, class of 1983.
Which high
right?
school? Which high
Yes.
school?
Yeah, class MHS graduates.
Okay.
So Gary actually didn't really speak to me a lot back then. He didn't even act like I was his friend. He even called me mean names, and that is a true story. So he's one of those guys I actually enjoyed running into, but it was when I was driving. So tonight you're all thinking, why are you wearing that shirt? You know, it's a little bit crazy, but I wore the shirt in honor of Gary, and he's a huge South Park fan. Which brings me to this one. So I wore the shirt on of Gary, and like I said, he loves South Park, and I think he owns triplicate duplications of all of their episodes. So I don't know how many of you know anything about. I don't know how many of you know anything about South Park, but we might have to move that to the back. I knew nothing about South Park, and you all might watch that, but I've never watched a day in my life. So I decided the other night, I was laying in bed, and I was like, I'm going to just Google South Park. So I Googled it, and I got a whole new educational experience. I'm just saying right now. So I watched it, and the episode I watched was called The Burrito Feeding Scene, Human Centipede. So if you've never watched, I mean, raise your hand if you've watched that one. I know. So anyway, the moral of the story was, boy, was I educated, and really, Gary, now I understand you. So.
I don't even watch that one.
Yeah, that was. So anyway, so Easter came just this, last weekend, and I had to laugh because during our dinner, my brother-in-law, Mike Fricky, was asking about this get-together tonight, and I said, oh, it's going to be really fun. We're going to roast Gary. Joe's the the MC, and who went to MCC, and, you guys really ought to think about coming. So in talking about that, his daughter said, actually, when I was talking to Mike, he said, talking about the cost and everything, I said, it's $37. And then his daughter said, $37? Who would pay $37 to see Gary shout? That's a true story. You know, and you know what I said? I know, Madeline. We can watch him free every New Year's Eve when him and Doug Cooper are fighting over Marcy Harvey. So you all know that Gary believes in a balanced diet, a beer in each hand, a six-pack as a snack pack, and a clue and cream as a dessert. So speaking of beer, we always invite Gary to our parties. He always shows up with the best appetizers, drinks, and of course, Gladware. So the problem is I have to sleep in my bra because he shows up the next morning at 7 a.m. to pick up all of his Gladware and half. I call Gary the sign Nazi. Like, what do you have to do to get a roundhouse sign in your yard? Seriously? I think I've cooked dinners for most of Marshalltown. I still can't get one.
Can't get
Yep.
money, honey. Write the check.
Now, we all know that Gary has a little less hair than most on the top of his head, right? So, we know he saves money on shampoo. So, but what you don't know is that actually the rest of his body is very hairy. Now, you're all thinking, how do you know that? So, I've actually vacationed with him. So, seriously, once I was told that when he was born, his mother had to be treated for rug burns. He once wore pants that seemed to collect a lot of his hair. So actually, he's walking down the street and he went down to brush the hair off of his legs, and he kept brushing it and brushing it and brushing it. And finally, he figured out that that was the hair on his legs sticking out of his pants. That was back before he made enough money to buy a really good suit. Once on vacation, he decided to manscape. So if you don't know what manscaping is, he decided to shave his chest, okay? But he's so hairy, he didn't do his back or his legs. The problem is, you can only, once you walk past you saw the back. So, two-toned, for sure. And at least he saves money on shampoo. So, Gary's one of the world's greatest lovers. All he needs is a partner. He broke up with his last girlfriend because she wasn't his type. Inflatable. In all seriousness, he's been around the block once or twice. In fact, I didn't realize that Elmwood is an after-member guest nudist colony. He's been known to take his dates to the pool to skinny dip. This week I ran into an old Arlington Drive neighbor, and she said, "They're roasting Gary Shout?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I remember him. When we were little, he used to scare me to death. He would chase me on the bike saying, 'What's your name, little girl? What's your name, little girl?' And I had my handlebars, and I was pedaling as fast as I could, and he would say, 'Zygmunt, Zygmunt.' To this day, he still calls me Zygmunt, and he still scares me to death." On a side note, she commented that it was always funny. Every time your parents left, she always noticed a lot of people at your house. Just saying. All right, so on a serious note, and I mean, I've said serious a couple times. I mean a serious note. Gary, I don't think they could have picked a better candidate to give you this award. Well, except for maybe Jane Bauer. And John Hermison. You are a leader, a visionist, a fundraiser, and a pillar of the community. You're my friend. You're my husband's friend. You're my family's friend. I remember once your mom giving you a beautiful tribute. She said, "Gary has found his place. It is here in Marshalltown where he belongs." She was right. We've been blessed to have you, and we would be lost without you. May God bless. May God be good to you, and of course to all the Presbyterians that are here tonight. And may you enjoy a long and successful life. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. I can see where that's the last serious part. You can see where the beer kicked in. And I was going to thank you, that Liquid Courage, since February, 2 beers a night, saved me a lot of money. I'm on the couch anyway.
You sleeping on the couch?
And my ride's still here. I hope our next roaster works out. I understand he wasn't Gary's first choice, or second choice, or even third choice. Andy Vispistad? Vespustad?
I can see you're reading notes.
Hey, yeah.
There's only one person that says it like that.
Two tonight. Vespidstad? Some damn Norwegian name. Okay, if I just call you Hans? Ole? Sven? Anyway, Ole is Gary's cousin. Ole has two older brothers who were Gary's first two choices. But they live in Minnesota and Kansas and have real lives. Thus, they have other things to do. His third choice was your grandfather, Nels, but he's deceased. So stop it. So it's up to you to come up with some knee slappers and make the family proud, Andy.
Thank you. You know, Gary's, I've been asking for a while. By the way, you had since February to prepare for this? It takes, you know, when I'm number 4, I've had like 3 days. So, but I've been asking Gary for a while. He says, you know, not raunchy, PG, and I'm going, so what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Well, after an intro like that, there's no rules. You can keep that. I've been working at this. So, I don't know. A couple days ago, I get the call from Gary, and it's, Andy, I've been voted Citizen of the Year by the Morning Optimist group in Marshalltown, Iowa. Would you come and do a roast? And I'm like, sure. Looking at my wife going, Gary's somebody voted him Citizen of the Year. Who is this group? Was it like a vote in Florida? Was it a Florida vote? Did they not know how to count this? Have they ran out of people in Marshalltown that can be Citizens of the Year? What is this? So I'm thinking about it, and so, you know, it's my duty to tell you people about Gary, because it's obvious you don't know the whole story. Okay? So I, step back and go, okay, I got to kind of prepare something. Who do you call? Your older brothers. So I call the older brother. Yeah.
Choice 1 and choice 2.
Exactly. And so I call my oldest brother up Minnesota. He goes, yeah, I know all about it. He asked me, but I told him no. told him to call Scott. So I call Scott. Scott goes, oh yeah, I know all about it. Told him to call Nels. So at any rate, I was gonna maybe not tell everybody I'm the third choice, but their fourth choice. So I asked Scott. I go, I gotta come up with some stories. And he starts laughing. And all of a sudden, silent. He goes, "Who's the crowd?" Because I don't think I have many stories that you can tell in public. So then I started kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, well, who's the Morning Optimist group? So I Google it, and look, it's a legit group. It's a real organization. There's pictures of people that look classy, employed. Wow. So then along comes the thing, Marshalltown. There's 27,844 people in Marshalltown. They haven't ran out of people. So what's the deal? So I Google Gary Shout. Well, I'm going to tell you, don't Google Gary Shout. Okay? So after I delete my browsing history, I sit back and I go, well, what kind of things do these folks need to know? Well, I guess really they need to know several things. One is, Gary has never followed the same path as the rest of the crowd. He's a city boy. If you didn't know that, he is a city boy. And then there's a few stories that I got out of people that actually make it legit on the vote. So in terms of him not following the normal path, looking back, he's got 4 siblings, all of which have noble professions. There's teachers, there's ministers and preachers, there's nurses, and then human resources Gary. Dana's a track star. Gary's a cheerleader. and, and so, and then I thought to myself, well, there's probably people that are here that knew Gary when he was in high school, but probably haven't seen him since, and they're sitting there right now, looking up here going, when's Gary coming? Because they don't recognize Gary. Well, he changed his hairstyle. Okay? So, luckily, and I don't know why, but my mom had and kept a small lock of Gary's hair from when he was in high school. So, so for the people that didn't recognize Gary, I brought that lock. And here it is. So, if you would put that on, these folks that don't recognize you, this is what Gary looked like in high school.
So now I'm back.
That is the if you go to Amazon.com, that is the girls' night out wig. So Gary's a city boy, and I grew up on a farm with my family, and a while back we took it upon ourselves, my brother and dad and I and my uncle, to roughen Gary up a little bit. So we invite him on our annual ice fishing trip, and it's in the Canadian border, and we go up, and it's a guy's ice fishing trip. We bring manly things. We've got Bush Light, we've got Black Velvet, we've got a tackle box with wheels because we have so much tackle that it takes a tackle box with wheels. We have so many rods and reels that it takes 2 trips to bring them all in. Gary shows up, and we're now known at the Lake of the Woods for the crew that brought the guy with the Ziploc tackle box. This is not an embellishment. This is not any exaggeration. He pulls out his tackle box, and it's a Ziploc bag. We're the only ice shack on the Lake of the Woods that's drinking Kahlua and milk, homemade Baileys, and wine. And the Optimist group, if you're looking for something that Gary's good at, okay, if you're like, he's on the team, we got to give him something to do. What he's really good at, because he's not very good at fishing, and he loves to listen to the radio, is he will hold the antenna of the radio for days to get the station in. So days in the ice shack he spent to get WHO or something. Snowmobiling is really pretty easy for most of us. We took Gary snowmobiling, and you go to rent your snowmobile. The guy that you rent it from has one piece of advice: don't bail off the sled. Well, Gary, after 3 days of riding, bails off the sled multiple times, and I many times look back, and here's the sled, unmanned, Gary behind it, trying to catch it, and somehow the sled came back in one piece. So with that, I think lastly, talking to people and getting some stories, and why would somebody vote Gary as a Citizen of the Year? And there was 3 things that kind of came out, and to be able to publicly thank him for some of this is kind of nice. First one, 13 years ago, when you moved to Kansas City, my nieces were born.
Yep.
And the one, my 13-year-old niece, Lydia, had considerable amount of need. They had a little intensive care unit set up in their living room, and the nurses weren't necessarily reliable. So Gary, believe it or not, without being asked, last-minute thing, would stay up all night long. And my brother and sister said, Tom, thanks for that. So other than hitting on the nurses, and, there was several good stories there, but they didn't make the cut. Because there's some of the nurses by the name of Joyce, a nurse by the name of Psycho. But following that, moved back to Marshalltown and spent a considerable amount of time with his mom, my Aunt Eleanor, and helped her battle cancer, and that's should be thanked for that, a lot of time. And lastly, as a Vespastad, we continue our Christmas event because of Gary. And you get to talking to him, and it's not by accident that he puts together a day-long event where we get together and we destroy his kitchen. We make potato cakes and lepsa, and it's a big desire for him to keep all the distant cousins close, and it's a great venue for it, so thank you. With that, cheers. To Gary. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. If it's any consolation, Gary was not the first choice, the second choice, the third choice, or even the fourth choice for the 2015 Citizen of the Year Award. So. Leah. There you are. I see you're not wearing your Harley boots, do-rag, or leather chaps. Down, Bob Bauer. That's a little Gary Shout humor. I also saw your arm was in a sling earlier.
Yeah.
I hope Gary's patsy Norwegian street thugs didn't get to you in an attempt to temper your comments. You okay? You need a page turner? Sorry, Bob. Ladies and gentlemen, Leanne Lane.
That's tough to follow.
You can use the wig.
I wish I would have went first. Okay, well, I was a little nervous to do this, and so I kind of went through some relaxation techniques while I was up here, and you guys are all in your underwear right now, so I'm feeling pretty good. Okay.
Not Gary.
Most of you. All right. Well, I wrote a little limerick about Gary, and I'm going to share it with you. Do you know what a limerick is?
575?
No, it's close enough.
Oh,
Gary Shout is a man we all know, with his shiny bald head all aglow. He takes your money, whispers, "Oh, trust me, honey," then says, "Man, I sure hope these stocks grow." I've known Gary for about 12 years. I'll never forget the first time I met Gary. But we're hoping that the therapy helps with that. Is that yours? Oh, sorry. Many of you here are friends of Gary's. Well, that just proves that you're quite poor judges of character. But I think that we should be nice for a little while, because Gary does grow on you, doesn't he? Yeah, kind of like a fungus. But I'm going to start off talking about some of Gary's attributes. Now, since I'm a list maker, I kind of got my list making going. So I got the Gary's attributes list here. Let's see, to-do list, walk dogs, brush dogs, bathe dogs. No, that's not it. Shopping list, dog food, dog toys. No. Ah, here we go. Gary's attributes. Oh. Okay, well, I got no farther than the heading, so we'll just move on. Well, if you've ever been to a function with Gary, you know that Gary is the hostess with the mostest. When Gary comes up to someone's house, he doesn't show up with bags of food and beverages. You know, when he pulls up in his car, it's like it's a traveling restaurant. You're pretty sure for a while that Meals on Wheels is in your driveway. He spends more time hosting and serving than the actual host does. When I'm at my house and if I need a serving bowl and Gary's not there, I have to call him and ask him where I keep them. But I have to tell you, as good at entertaining as Gary is, he's not exactly proficient at home handyman projects. One year, Gary was going to come over to our house and watch the Iowa State football game. They wanted to watch the game in Randy's man cave. You know, the manly man, being in the man cave, getting all manly. Well, it was supposed to be hot that day, so the tough manly men didn't want to get all sweaty. So Gary brought his window air conditioner over and put it in the garage for the game. Well, I thought it'd be an easy thing, but apparently it wasn't. They're out there for I don't know how long and doing whatever you do to put a window air conditioner in a window. I mean, really, how hard? So finally I go out there to see what's going on, and it's in the window, but Gary's standing there with the power cord in his hand. He's just looking proud as punch. He says, well, we're good to go. Randy just went to get one of his 50-foot extension cords so we can plug it into that plug-in over there. Well, I was a little confused because there was a plug-in right underneath the air conditioner. I'm like, well, Gary, why don't you just plug it in right there under the air conditioner? It's actually one of the times that I've ever seen Gary speechless. He plugged it in, he turned it on, he went and sat down and pretended I did not exist. I was banned. Gary actually banned me from the man cave for the rest of the day. I still don't know who won the game. Oh, 2 years ago, when we were in Mexico, I made Gary and Randy take me to this little jewelry shop where women made beaded jewelry. Now, all these women who worked there were victims of domestic violence, so all the proceeds went right back to these women, and they used the money to pay for food and shelter for themselves and their children. Well, the guys were pretty hepped up about that, as you can imagine. So we went to the shop, and the women were there making the jewelry, and I'm looking around shopping for jewelry, and the men are standing in the corner looking very uncomfortable. So I pick out a few items, and I go to pay for them. When the lady told me how much it'd be, Gary said in his outside voice, well, I'm sure you can talk her down some. These are battered, homeless women. Gary tried to talk them out of 20 pesos. So I gave him some extra pesos, and I low-crawled out of there. The women were muttering things and glaring at Gary. And I actually learned some new Spanish words that day. Now, the other day I overheard someone say that Gary's two-faced. And I thought that was kind of a mean thing to say. And it made me feel bad. And I don't think it's true. Really. If Gary were two-faced, do you think this is the face he would wear in public? But I think we should cut Gary some slack, because I happened upon a few things in Gary's past that might explain why he is the way he is. Gary has 4 older siblings. After his parents were married, they decided to start their family. Boom, 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 3 girls in a row. Gerald and Eleanor were very blessed with their girls, but they felt that a boy would complete the family. So they ordered a boy. I didn't know that's how you did it, but they got a boy. So the family was complete. Life was good. 3 blissful, glorious years of this perfect little family, then, surprise, another boy came along. Well, they weren't expecting another child, so they didn't really know what to name this little mistake. It seemed a little odd to name your baby The Mistake, so they kept working on it and thinking about it, and they thought, well, okay, they have Wanda, Brenda, Sonda, Dana. Hey, how about Gary? Yeah, that'll make him feel real included. But his parents really did love him right from the start. After he... I'm so sorry.
Same website.
We got each other's jokes. You know what? I'm not going to tell that one. Do it. His parents loved him right from the start. After he was born, his mother looked at little Gary and said, "What a treasure." And his dad said, "Yeah, let's bury it." Now, many of you know last year, Gary joined the ranks of the over 50 crowd. I had the privilege of being on the party planning team, and one of my duties was to go to Gary's dad's house and get some pictures of Gary. back when he actually had some of his youth left. Gary's dad, Mr. Shout, was very glad to give me some pictures, and he shared some stories about Gary that I'm pretty sure many of you might not know. Hey, Gary, do they know about the one with the goat, the librarian, and the bottle of whiskey? No? Okay. Well, we're not going to tell that one right now. Anyway, Mr. Shout welcomed me into his home and showed me some pictures, and he said he had a nice baby picture in the bedroom. Would we want a baby picture? Well, sure. Everybody wants a baby picture, right? Well, we walk into the bedroom, and from the door, I can spot the picture of Gary on the wall. There's this little arrangement of 4 beautiful babies on the wall, 3 little girls with bows in their hair. They're so cute. And then there's another picture of a dark-eyed little guy with just a head full of black hair. Now, off to the side a ways, there's this picture of this little fair-skinned kid who is as bald as a beach ball. Well, Mr. Shout was convinced that the dark-haired kid was Gary. And I'm like, and I kept politely telling him that Gary was the bald kid. This went back and forth for quite a while, and it was getting rather awkward. Now, you have to remember, these pictures have been on this same wall for 50-plus years. Mr. Shout has looked at these pictures every day for 50-plus years. Finally, he asked Catherine, his wife of 4 years, which one was Gary, and she set him straight immediately. She had an advantage over me. She didn't have to be polite. I left with the picture of the bald kid. Now, did anyone get the Shout's Christmas card 2 years ago? Gerald and Catherine sent a Christmas newsletter out to their friends. See, you guys know these are true stories because everybody's laughing already. It was a usual Christmas letter. Well, it had told of the events of the past year, talked about, what they'd done, their family had done. So they talked about their adventures, and then they moved on to the kids' adventures. Wanda, Brenda, Sonda were the stars of the Christmas letter. Oh my! The adventures of these chosen children. It was fascinating. They printed out 250 of the letters to give to their closest friends and family, and after they'd done that, they'd realized they'd forgot someone. There was nothing in the card about Gary. What to do? It seemed like a very wasteful thing, not to mention a lot of work to redo the Christmas card. So they tried to come up with a solution, and someone had an idea. They got some white address labels and a Sharpie, and lo and behold, Gary was in the letter. It was a Christmas miracle. Apparently, I have a copy here, and apparently Gary had quite the year, because the addendum says, Gary is fine too. So in closing, I would like to defend poor little Gary. With so much trauma in his life, I think it's a wonder he's turned out to be such a pillar of our community. We're proud of you, Gary. You survived all this, and you didn't even have to sell beaded jewelry to get yourself through the hard times. I'm going to finish off now with another one of my now famous, or not so famous, limericks. Everyone loves Gary Shout. He's a good guy who takes the high route. He brightens our day, and I really must say, he's Citizen of the Year, no doubt.
Thanks, Leah. Our next roaster, really, Gary? Choosing a pastor to be one of your roasters? What a pansy you are. I sure hope you haven't confessed all your sins to him. I want to get home before the Dallas Cowboys season opener in September. Now, Dana, I hope you paid attention to the first 4 speakers. They are relatively short comments. Even if some of us may need it, Dan Moeller's Tom Wall, we don't want one of your 3-hour fire and brimstone holy roller sermons. Pastor, the pulpit is yours.
Speaking of that, I texted my brother yesterday and I asked this question. I texted, how much time am I supposed to take? His response, an hour and 20 minutes less than you do every Sunday. So, by the way, BTW, the punchline is supposed to come at the end of the joke. Just kidding. So, you began to touch a little bit. Not only I'm a pastor, but I do a lot of counseling, and so you always try to get to the the below the symptoms to the real cause. And many of you are wondering, Gary is very driven. He's been very successful, borderline workaholic. Why has he become that way? My response is very simple. When you follow a brother who is more athletic, more handsome, who's smarter, and who 28 years ago raised the bar really high by marrying the most gorgeous woman. See, I'm not sleeping on the couch tonight. That's right. You betcha. When you've had to live in that kind of shadow, there's two responses that us counselors usually say will occur. Number one, you'll go into a state of depression. You'll have a very small self-esteem, or that living in that shadow will drive you for the rest of your life. And so, thank me for his success. Yeah, imagine that. I go through high school, great athlete, more handsome, a lot smarter. The teachers had nothing but high expectations for him. Unfortunately, he did not fulfill them. Then I read this newspaper. Oh, not only is he Citizen of the Year, but he got the 15-minute spot in the TR. Tell us about your family. I'm single. I'm the son of Gerald and the late Eleanor Shout. I was brought up as the often harassed youngest of 5 children. I did all the chores for my 3 sisters and for my brother. Let me tell you this story. Mr. Coddled. I was about 7 or 8 years old. It was in the middle of the summer, and a new kid moved a few doors down. And there was a bunch of us boys that realized, hey, we can really today it'd be called bully him. And so we did. All of us boys from the block were just constantly harassing him. And his mother finally found out, and she was not happy. And so she called my mom. It happened to be my birthday. And we walked home, and my mom was standing in the driveway with a stick. And she looked me in the eyes, and she says, I want to let you know one thing. This is not your birthday spanking. And she left an impression. He never got spanked.
Oh, yes, he did.
Yeah. I'm the one that's going to have to go to confession tomorrow. We love sports. Sports was our life. Playing basketball out in the driveway. I was Pistol Pete Maravich, and he was John Havlicek. I'll never forget the time where my parents came up with this brilliant idea. I was going to start taking piano lessons. And how can we do this? We can't afford it. We're living on a teacher's salary. Let's allow one of his sisters to teach her. So as I'm taking piano lessons right next to the window, what's Gary doing? He's dribbling the basketball in front of the window, and every now and then he's looking through the window and smiling at me. By the way, those lessons lasted 4 times, and it was never. Mom and Dad, I don't even know if they know this yet, but whenever they would leave, we were about 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, they'd leave the house. Gary and I would totally transform the living room into a wrestling mat. And we would just kill each other. And then when we saw the headlights coming, we'd quick get the end table and put them back. I can't believe they didn't know. I mean, when we were sitting there smiling, we had carpet burns all over our face. Everything. Gary worked for the county a couple of summers. This is where he learned conflict resolution. There was one story that he told me about. He was on the sign crew. He's supposed to go all around the county during the summer, him and another guy, and they basically dig the hole and bury put the sign in all around the county. Evidently, there was one farmer that didn't want a sign in his yard. So Gary put the sign in. That night, the farmer took the sign out. The next day, Gary went back, dug a second hole, put the sign in. That night, the farmer took the sign out. Finally, Gary went up to the farmer and says, "How many holes do you want in your yard? Because I'm going to keep drilling holes until that sign stays there." I know it's past the statute of limitations. So if there's anybody who's a county superintendent here, you can't garnish his paycheck anymore. But I also heard that some of the lunch times went just a little bit longer than were required by that. Here's one. Gary was at the University of Iowa, and what did he do in order to put himself through college? No. Number one, he was an RA. Ask him. He was an RA for a couple of years for some of the basketball players at Iowa. But another thing that he did was this. The university had received a large-sized grant to do what they called was a sweat study. Gary volunteered to be paid to be a part of the study. What did they do? And my story's a little bit different than yours. Because they had to shave his entire upper body. He was absolutely depressed because they had to shave his only 3 hairs on his chest. They shaved his upper body. They covered him with Vaseline. They wrapped his upper body in a plastic bag and then stuck him in a sauna and had a tube in the bag to collect his sweat. He was paid $50 a time to sit in Vaseline and sweat. And that's how he got through college. Gary also learned how to delegate responsibilities. He paid other students to attend his classes and take notes for him. He introduced himself to the professor at the final. On a serious note, Andy mentioned something that took place. Imagine this. Imagine that you are within the Cargill industry. You're in HR and you're also in charge many times of a plant manager. And you're beginning to climb the ladder. Very successful. Cargill, every couple of years, is switching him to a different plant because he is proven to be extremely effective in the area of HR, and they would send him to plants where they were having a tremendous amount of difficulty. Imagine that he is continuing to climb that ladder, and as Andy said, he's in Kansas City. Unbeknownst to even me, which I'm usually pretty privy to what he's up to, unbeknownst even to me, he quit his job without having any job lined up back in Marshalltown. Why? Because he found out his mom had cancer. Moved back to Marshalltown and basically has been here since for the sole purpose of being close so that in my mom's last years he could be there to support and help out. So, Citizen of the Year, Yeah. But an awful darn good brother, I'd have to admit. God bless you.
Thanks, Dana. Moving on to the final roaster. Last, and most certainly not least, is Chatty Patty Heather Van Buren. She comes to us with audio-visual equipment. Hopefully she won't be belting out her comments with show tune karaoke. Her singing could make a deaf man flinch. Take it away, Miley.
I'm going to take this out because I'm going to have to walk in a few minutes. But hello and good evening. Like Andy, at least you got 3 days. Being the youngest, I got 1 day. So this will be quick, sweet, but good. I'm kind of confused on what's going on tonight. I was asked to speak on behalf of, I thought, Marshalltown's very own 2015's most sexy eligible bachelor, Gary Shout. Like Peggy, I've heard he's one of most Marshalltown's famous lovers, but he is looking for a partner. Gary isn't picky. He likes them young, he likes them old, he likes them short, and he likes them tall. He likes to play rhyming games with this certain young woman, which she has nicknamed him Harry Scary Gary. While the older gals like to grab his butt as he dances by, as you will soon see. Gary is quite a charmer. He opens the doors, he buys them drinks, he comes to meetings prepared to serve. But be aware, there's another game he likes to play. He likes to play this drinking game. He buys a bucket of beer, and no one's allowed to finish until you both or all of you finish at the same time. It never ends up pretty. Wait, oh my gosh. I've been rambling on about Gary the Bachelor. I think I might have been mistaken about this evening tonight. I'm so sorry. I mixed up this evening with another event I was supposed to speak about. I was asked to speak on behalf of the adult bookstore and honor Gary Shout, their most loyal customer. Wow, sorry. Excuse me. When Gary asked me to speak on behalf of Citizen of the Year, I first thought, wow, congratulations to Gary for this amazing honor and recognition. But then I quickly thought, damn, they only give this award to old people. Did you see the old lady that got it last year? But then I became really sad. Because they only give this to old people or dying people. Gary's lost 50 pounds. He's lost his hair. Gary, are you sick? Are you dying? And then Peggy and Liette and I used the same website to get some jokes. No, seriously. I think
Book first.
many of my memories began in 7th grade when Mr. Shout was my teacher. So in 7th grade, I would attend the Bobcat basketball games, and they were rocking. They were rocking the roundhouse. They were filled with enthusiasm and excitement. The halftime was a place where everyone wanted to be. Gary would show up. He'd be dressed in a Hawaiian shirt with that beautiful blonde hair, and he would put on a show. All the women there were there because of Gary. And this is Gary. Look at the crowd.
That's Gary on the surfboard, that's cheerleading out there.
Look at all the ladies cheering for Gary. Now Gary's giving the referee an eye chart. Wow, what it's like to be 50, Gary. And watch, the ref slaps him on the butt. Woo! This past May, Gary decided he still had what it took to entertain the crowd. He dusted off that surfboard and rode the waves at the Bobcat Ball. Look at the age of the ladies going wild now. Don't let him fool you. It's not his real hair, friends. And she grabbed his butt, ladies and gentlemen. He's looking a little weary. The face is red. There's the sweat his brother was talking about. So, on a more serious note, Gary, you are an amazing man, friend, and confidant. Marshalltown is a much better place with you in it and working to improve our community. You've gotten to be very close with Cynthia and I as we work on the Roundhouse project together. But a quick warning, if you see Gary heading to one of our meetings and he's pushing a shopping cart, several bags, suitcases, briefcases, don't worry, Gary's not homeless. He is our president hoarder. I mean historian. Congratulations, Gary. Now, on one more quick note, Gary knows Peggy probably as well as her husband, and Peggy always has to have the last word. So on that note, Peggy Ham.
So, Gary, I asked my brother to make me something for you. I asked him back in February when I started drinking. And I brought him a couple pieces of wood. But when I asked him 2 months ago, I actually just brought it like a week and a half ago. So I'm just saying, be prepared.
All right.
So anyway, I asked my brother Joe to make this item. And just to give him a little pat on the back, he's the co-owner of Luray Architectural Veneer in Haverhill, Iowa, if you ever want any really custom furniture made. And he did a beautiful job, but it didn't come easy. So I actually asked him 2 months ago, like I said, and he just delivered the wood. I just delivered the wood to him a week and a half ago. So I think he made it in 3 days because I think he procrastinated a little bit too. So with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, I have a little dialogue. So, we're ready? Okay. Before I go further, this is actually made out of the roundhouse flooring. Wow. So seriously, when you look at that, when I really, literally asked my brother 2 months ago to make it, and I delivered it a week and a half ago, I think he did a pretty good job. So here's the conversation I had with my brother when I went out there 2 nights ago. So was this the worst project ever? It's at the top of the list. Why? You see, Peggy, it's the gym floor. It's not a surfboard. It does not want to be a surfboard. It wants to be a gym floor. It fell apart every time I tried to work with it. Wait till you see the back. It was horrible to work with. It smells. What do you mean it smells? It smells like basketball players. It smells like basketball players? No, it smells like basketball players. It smells like basketball players from the 70s. You know, they were the only good ones. They're the ones with the flags. They're the ones with the flags hanging in the roundhouse. He said it smells like the DeVolders.
Yes, my class.
It smells like the Flathers. It smells like years and years of playing. It smells like a gym. It tastes like a gym. What do you mean it tastes like a gym? Well, he's standing there sanding it as he's breathing it in. It tastes like a gym. It tastes like sweat from basketball players. It smells like feet. It smells like a locker room. Can't you smell that? I can't smell. I lost my smell. I cannot smell. I go, I'm videotaping this. As he says this, I go, I can't smell. Well, it doesn't smell like maple. And I'm telling you, I know what maple smells like. It smells like George Funk. The Grand Poobah. So here it is, Gary. Your gift from us to you. It's a really smelly surfboard that represents 50 years. And by the way, Gary's 50, I am not. We did graduate the same year. It represents 50 years of sweaty nostalgia of the iconic roundhouse. If only these boards could talk. So, by the way, I have to add one extra note. We are still selling flooring from the roundhouse, which I'm on that committee, and bleacher board. So, after this is over, if you want to leave flooring or bleacher board, come see me. Gary, the floor is yours. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to add one more thing. When they did the historic little dance he did, we want to thank Tom Kurth because he provided the video from the original Wipeout. Okay, thank you, Tom.
And the Bobcat.
And the Bobcat ball. And the Bobcat ball. Thank you. Thank you. And Mrs. Kurth, obviously. I love you, daughter. Gary, the floor is yours. Be kind. Like really kind.
Well, after that was great. Do you have anything else to say there, MC?
No.
Get it.
Hey,
Oh, I thought it was MC.
he's not MC Hannum, but he's MC Hannum. How about the MC tonight? Give him a round of applause.
Gary, whatever possessed you to do that?
I was going to rephrase.
Satan.
No. I was going to use a word I shouldn't. It didn't make my mom real happy, so it made me happy. You saw those people cheering. I have a picture of those two stoically looking over going, what the hell is he doing now? And that is no lie.
Here's the suitcase.
Here comes the suitcase. Obviously, 6 people don't know what the hell this t-shirt means. You're all a bunch of bullies. Not in our town. It's more than just a t-shirt here, people. What you did tonight was wrong. It was wrong. Number 4. You know, I never really considered a toupee or calling the hair club for men until tonight. Before I get rolling, though, tonight, you've heard references of family members and those kind of things, and one of the ways you get to be Citizen of the Year is you have a big family so you can sell tickets. I'm the last of 5, my mom's the last of 5, dad's part of 5, and they're just all over the place. So I want to introduce them. My dad's over here, Gerald. And I'm sorry, Leette's not very nice to the elderly, so sorry about that. My stepmom, Catherine. And I'll start working around here. My sister-in-law, Dana's spouse, Donna. And I'm not making this stuff around being a dead horse, but Donna. Yeah. What's your kid's name? Kara. And he mentioned Donna. She's a great sister-in-law, but we do have the same birthday, just a couple years apart. She's just older. But I was going to be nice to him. I didn't really have much in here at all on him until I heard a couple of those comments. Donna is the reason that my brother, for a lot of years, I've always been his younger brother. I'm now his littler brother. That is right. Up front here is my sister Wanda from Carroll. My sister Brenda is over here from Troy Grove, Illinois. What's your daughter's name? Alyssa. Who did your son marry? Katrina.
So good.
I go to family reunions. I just curl up in a corner, suck my thumb, and just hope someone will come talk to me. I got to be more outgoing. Front here is my sister Sonda. And her husband, Wade. They are both also ministers, Reverend Wade, Reverend Sonda. Where do we go from here? Behind them are my cousins, not making it up, Barbara. My other cousin, Tonya. We have 18 other cousins that don't end in A. They don't show up. All right, Jody, you're a second cousin. Jody, from Greater Slater and Ankeny. Got my cousin Kevin over here from Urbandale. Get a little wave there, Kevin. Let's see, I know I forgot you. I'm coming back to you. Any other relatives I might have skimmed across here? Well, I did leave my Andy's parents. My Uncle Hubert and my Aunt Peggy are here, and they're from the town of Farrar, Iowa, which is down Highway 330, that direction. So, Hubert and Peggy.
Go Peggy!
And the reason I left them for last, I think it's funny, it's coincidental. I think I'm the 24th recipient of this award here tonight. Coincidentally, my Uncle Hubert was the 24th recipient of the Citizens of the Year of the town of Farrar.
Oh.
Yeah. The population is 19. Yep, got beat out by one of the ghosts in the empty, vacant. It's on TV. Trust me, it's in Farrar. They got this thing. So, anyway, going back to the action here. I heard you out in the audience all yucking it up, having a great time, sitting back or in the audience thinking you're going to be immune from barbs and ridicule. Normally, the roaster just focuses on those people who roasted them. That's not the case tonight. I mean, these 6 people have worked very, very hard on their C+ material. They're fatigued, they're tired. You already heard Peggy, after the surfboard thing, heck. But I'll use her as an example. This woman has an opinion about everything. But for the last 2 weeks, she's been whining about how she can't sleep because she keeps telling herself, I'm too nice and too conservative to do a roast. She hasn't slept. So I don't want to make her a tired woman, an angry woman. So I'm going to leave her alone.
Good job.
Yeah. So tonight, once again, I'm not going to limit my comments to just the roasters. It's going to be kind of like not covering your mouth when you sneeze when you have scrambled eggs in your mouth. Comments are going to go anywhere. You haven't done that? I guess that's why I live alone. Tom Wall, you keep asking me, is there going to be input from the crowd? Are you going to be able to say something? No. This isn't open mic night at the Optimist Club. It's not. So just sit. Sit. Is that Denny Hass sitting by you? Well, let's start with him. Denny, you tempted me. Most years, a few of us mid-age gangsters head on a road trip somewhere for a Dallas Cowboys game. We're all Cowboys fans. A couple of years ago, our trip was going to the new Dallas Cowboys Stadium, often called Utopia. We did an overnight in Oklahoma City. Unlike Iowa, they allow them to smoke in the restaurants and bars down there. Well, old Denny, for all those know, he's a smoker. He's a chain smoker. And he is barely aching already because somebody bought Grain Belt beer. For those who don't drink beer, as a cricket is to protein and lobsters is to protein, Grain Belt's the cricket. And then he's all mad. He wants to go to a discotheque. Oh, Danny's all mad. I'm drinking Grain Belt beer. I'm going to a discotheque. I can't even get going. So he's a smart guy. He pulls us all together and have a little conference. And he's going, by the way, this is lit. Can you believe how smoky it is in here? True story. Now, for those of you who don't know Denny, Denny is now a recovering smoker. He recently had 9 or 10 stents put in his heart. He wasn't man enough for a bypass. Now, Denny, I'm glad you're recuperating well. I really am. So last week I see Denny walking down the street. First exercise I've seen him do in 20 years. So he tells me, things are going good, but I put on 11 pounds since I quit smoking. I had a double response. The first one was, whant. My fourth chin weighs 11 pounds. The second one is, great, you put on 11 pounds. Now you don't look like a third world country person. You've graduated to the second world country. Congratulations, Denny. And I don't know how many of you guys have been asking yourselves this. We're at the Morning Optimist. We're at the Optimist. But I've been perplexed. Why do they hold a roast? I don't find a roast to be very optimistic. I certainly didn't tonight. The creed, it's up here. A couple lines from there. To talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet. To give so much to improve yourself that you have no time to criticize others. It's all very nice, but it doesn't sound like an organization that would convene a roast. So what happened 24 years ago? Where, like most civic troops, you just really needed a lot of money did you have some rebel morning optimist president say, man, we got to make some money. Let's tease and ridicule somebody and people come to watch. That'll make us some money. It's kind of ironic. Now, I'm not criticizing the optimist. I'm not, because I'm too busy improving myself to criticize others. But anyway, but I've been in your shoes. I have been. You mean on this roundhouse deal with Cynthia, Heather? I've been there, man. We need money. We need money. So similar to the optimist, we want to raise money for kids. That's what the roundhouse is about. We're raising money for kids. So that's what their motto is. Bring out the best in kids. So we turned to the fundraising queen, Jane Bauer, last year's Citizen of the Year. Heather called you really old, by the way. We asked Jane to raise some major cash for the kids by chairing the Bobcat Ball, which you saw up there. No micromanagement. Go get it, Jane. Make the kids some money. Off she goes. Jane comes back to tell us about all of her plans. She's got great ideas. They were super. But there was one that I felt like the president 24 years ago. Do I or don't I? What did Jane want to do for the kids? Jane wanted to brew, bottle, and sell Bleacher Blonde beer. For the kids. So, yep, I fell down that bad path of, I sold out. Thanks, Jane. Andy, I was going to leave you alone. But he did mention my time down in Kansas City, and I'm glad that she's doing great now. His niece and whatnot, they're wonderful kids and those kind of things. And he mentioned, literally, I would be there all night. They'd have nurses there. And old Hubert would be down there. They were wonderful to the kids. And they would be telling me how they were going to set me up with these nurses. This one coming tonight, she's the one. We welcome her to our table. She sits down and starts telling us her suicidal thoughts. I'll go take care of the kid. The next one, we've got another one for you. This one's nasty. She comes through the front door, and she is bleeding. Her face is scarred up, and I am not kidding. What the hell happened to you? I got run over by my own car. Well, at least they know my type. At least she can't run, I can catch her. Then, he talked about our trips, our snowmobile trips and those sorts of things. Yes, I was riding that snowmobile hard. I was making, these guys were sissies. They were back there, ooh, I can't go fast. I was making it happen. I had my little skilly-doo, that thing was moving. Without a doubt. Skilly-doo is what we called it. Thing moved. So yeah, I got thrown off a couple times. I never hit a tree. At the end, we went on a night ride. And I decided I'm taking the lead. And I did. I was moving. They were all dawdling back with Hubert. And I came around a corner, which I didn't expect. And there was this tree, and it was a big tree. I threw myself up into there's kind of a ditch, and there was a lot of snow. I'm not kidding, there was a lot of snow. And I landed hands down, feet down, my helmet was full of snow, and it was so much snow I couldn't touch anything. All it was my derriere up in the air. Normally I wouldn't be worried. These are cousins, for gosh sakes. I wouldn't be worried. Except for the night before. We're all bunking up. There's a dozen of us. We only got 4 bedrooms. I faked a cold and coughed and sneezed and all that kind of stuff. I got my own room. Shouldn't be worried about my cousins in that position. Shouldn't. Except for him and his brother Scott. They're in the same bed. About a half hour, things are quiet. Suddenly, one of them's blowing a rape whistle. There was a whistle going off, a rape whistle. So that night, when I heard the banjos going, my cousins were coming behind me, and I couldn't blow a rape whistle, I was nervous. Well, anyway. Now, you all heard here, the old minister here, got a minister here, I'm here. So, I want to be all-inclusive to my religious bunch. I do. So I'm going to get a little spiritual on, if you don't mind. I am. So I borrowed Lynn Oberling's Bible. You might want to cover your drinks there. Wanda, you smell better. No, really, it's not Lynn's. It's not. This is actually a Bible that was sent to me by my niece when she was 9 years old. And it was in a brown paper bag. And it was addressed to Outcast. Her name is Carissa. So anyway, I was trying to get ready for this deal, and so on Tuesday night I read the Bible twice. It's not just for college anymore. This is not. So I found some good material. Now you can help me out if I'm, right, Reverend? Okay.
Amen.
That's all the better you can do. So anyway. I found some good material. You know where it was at? The Book of Jobs. It was in the Book of Jobs. It's Job. It's Job, not Jobs. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, South Park.
See, I thought Steve Jobs was a pretty influential guy. Might have his own book. He's had a pretty good following, those sorts of things. Well, I guess I should connect to the dots, since Jobs was in the Old Testament, not the New Testament. So that didn't work out. So anyway, Jobs isn't a book in the Bible. That hurts. It hurts a lot. Because I hear all this time, people say bad things about kids. I think kids are good. They're all good. Because they pray a lot anymore. Isn't that what they're doing? Did Steve Jobs? Are they praying? I thought they were all praying. They're on their phones? This is weird. All right, well, sad to hear it. So anyway, we can't go to the Book of Jobs or Job or whatever you do. I've got to pick another passage. Let's see here, what's here. And what I'm trying to do here is I want to show the predictive power of the book with what happened back then, with things that are happening here today. It's very predictive. Mind if I use one you gave me? You might want to turn the camera off. So I went to the book of Ezekiel. And you guys, it's all pertinent. It makes sense. Do you guys remember a couple years ago in the state of Washington, Initiative 502, that passed the legalized marijuana in the state of Washington? Yep. Right before that, they passed legalized gay marriage. Yep. So Ezekiel, it calls it. It says, a man who lies next to another man may be stoned. Let's hear amen now.
Amen.
So, I've got a couple loose ends here. We have the bookends of Carrie and Heather and those kind of things. I also want to thank Tom and Sarah Kurth for putting together the Wipeout montage. Tom shot both videos. Sarah assembled them. Thank you very much for doing that. Tom, I'm sorry I got in the way of the cheerleader for you. But in the 1983 video you saw up there, Heather, you saw the shorts I was wearing, she thought I was wearing white compression shorts, like all the athletes do today. What's that, Joe? Joe, what's this? Oh, just excuse me, guys. Story. That's mean. It was a contest. I got to do it. Sorry. Roger Shell, you won the Buddha lookalike contest. You in peace on earth. So anyway, so she thought I was wearing white compression shorts like all the major athletes do today. She told me, Gary, man, you are ahead of your time back then. Now, I'm pretty sure in 1983, there was no such thing as compression shorts, unless it was to reduce blood clots. Not for athletics. This is a true story. What I was wearing was hand-me-down long underwear. My sisters have been standing the whole night. They're very short. Their feet have got to be tired, so it'll be short here. So that's why my hand-me-down long underwear only went down to my knees. So you ask, well, why are you wearing long underwear on a surfboard? Well, that's easy. Why I was wearing the long underwear on that surfboard underneath my gym shorts is so that I wouldn't expose my umbilical cord. Carrie is so coy, quiet. Say what you want about me in the delivery room. It's denial on your part. Denial is a bad thing. With that, it's been a fun night, and there's a lot of people to thank here tonight. I want to thank my family for tolerating me for a lot of years.
50.
Yeah. I want to thank Alice and my new teammates back there on the table who presented this as my girlfriend.
You don't have a car?
She ain't got no call. I thought about having Alice as one of my roasters, but she knows too much.
Talk to me later.
Yeah. I want to thank the roasters, though. I know a couple of you were definitely out of your comfort zones tonight, talking in front of folks and those type of things. And even Andy, you were okay. How about a round of applause for these roasters? But there's a lot of people that are seated out here. I know it's a Citizen of the Year here for myself and those type of things, but a citizen is more than one person. I mean, there's tons of people getting together and making things happen. Heather and Cynthia already talked about, they're terrific to work with on the Roundhouse. Around here, there's chamber ambassadors all over this thing that are great to work with and great citizens to do their type of things with. Even on the iClub, there's folks here, Tommy Thompson, those type of things on the iClub. Heck, we got the mayor here, we have the ex-mayor here. People that are doing things in this community all the time. And it's fun, it's good to do, and so I appreciate the honor and all those type of things, but thanks for helping do it together. Appreciate it.
I guess with that, court's adjourned.